Heading into the forest alone is one of the purest forms of adventure. It's just you, the trees, the earth, and your skills. But when you're on your own, there's no one to help if things go wrong. And that's exactly why bushcraft knowledge becomes more than a hobby. It's a lifeline. Today, we'll go over some of the most useful solo bushcraft tips and outdoor hacks that can make all the difference when you're out there with nothing but your gear and your wits. The first rule of solo bushcraft is simple: work smarter, not harder. When you're alone, every ounce of energy counts. That means using nature's materials to your advantage and turning everyday items into multi-purpose tools. Take fire, for example, one of the 4 essentials of wilderness living. It provides warmth, protection, the ability to cook, and a psychological boost that's impossible to overstate. But starting a fire in the wild isn't always as simple as striking a match. One reliable trick is the feather stick technique. When conditions are wet and finding dry tinder seems impossible, carve thin curls into a stick of seasoned wood, leaving them attached like a feathered spiral. The thin shavings catch a spark far more easily than a solid log, and once lit, they'll give you enough heat to dry larger pieces of fuel. Another great hack is using natural resin as a fire starter. Pine resin burns hot and long, even in damp weather. A small glob placed under your tinder can turn a weak spark into a roaring flame. Of course, fire isn't just about ignition. It's about fuel. When you're solo, you don't have the luxury of hauling massive logs or splitting heavy wood all day. Learn to identify standing deadwood, branches still attached to trees but long since dead. They're often bone dry and burn hot, saving you time and effort compared to dragging damp fallen logs out of the undergrowth. Now let's talk about shelter. In the wilderness, exposure is a greater threat than hunger or even thirst. A single cold night in the rain can be deadly if you're not prepared. When you're alone, building shelter fast and efficiently is key. One of the most effective solo shelters is the simple lean-to. All you need is a sturdy ridgepole, a long, thick branch propped between 2 trees, and a stack of branches or bark leaned against it to form a wall. Layer it thickly and pile leaves or moss on top for insulation and waterproofing. Always build with the wind direction in mind and position your fire so the heat radiates into your shelter without risking the structure itself. If you're in a colder climate, consider building a reflector wall on the opposite side of your fire. A simple wall of logs or rocks will bounce heat back into your shelter, effectively doubling the warmth you receive. It's a small job that can make a huge difference through the night. When it comes to tools, bushcraft is all about versatility. A good knife, a small hatchet, and some paracord are often all you need to thrive in the forest. But how you use them matters. One of the most important skills to master is batoning, the process of splitting wood using your knife and another stick as a hammer. It's safer and more efficient than swinging a heavy axe when you're alone, and it allows you to create kindling, stakes, and even building materials from larger pieces of wood. Paracord, too, is a solo adventurer's best friend. Beyond its obvious uses, building shelter, tying gear, and making traps, paracord can be broken down into individual strands and used for sewing, fishing line, or even dental floss in a pinch. Always keep several meters of it wrapped around your water bottle, knife sheath, or wrist, so it's ready when you need it. Let's talk about water, because without it, survival becomes impossible in just a few days. One of the most efficient solo bushcraft water hacks is creating a simple filter from natural materials. Cut a plastic bottle in half or carve a hollow from a piece of bamboo. Fill it in layers. Charcoal at the bottom, then sand, then small stones. Pour dirty water through and collect the filtered water below. While this won't remove every microbe, it dramatically reduces contaminants and makes boiling more effective. If you don't have a container, you can still collect water using condensation traps. Dig a small hole, place a container or cup at the bottom, cover the hole with green vegetation, and stretch plastic or a poncho over the top, weighing it down in the center with a small rock. Over time, water vapor from the plants will condense and drip into the container, a slow but valuable source of hydration when options are limited. Food is another major concern, but in bushcraft, efficiency outweighs effort. Don't waste energy chasing big game if you're alone. Small traps and foraging are your best allies. A simple figure 4 deadfall trap can be built in minutes with just a knife and a few sticks. And it works for squirrels, rabbits, and other small animals. Always set multiple traps to increase your chances, and combine that with plant foraging, berries, nuts, roots, and edible greens to supplement your diet. Just make sure you're absolutely certain of plant identification before eating anything. When in doubt, don't risk it. Navigation is another critical solo skill. Getting lost in the forest can be deadly, but with a few simple tricks you can keep your bearings even without a compass. In the northern hemisphere, moss tends to grow thicker on the north side of trees, and the sun's arc can help you orient yourself, rising roughly in the east and setting in the west. If you're unsure, build a shadow stick. Place a stick upright in the ground, mark the tip of its shadow with a stone, wait 15 minutes, and mark the new position. The line between the two marks runs west to east. It's not perfect, but it's good enough to keep you moving in the right direction. One of the hardest parts of solo bushcraft is managing your energy. Without a partner to share tasks, everything takes longer, and exhaustion can sneak up on you. Break large jobs into smaller steps and work with the daylight. Use natural rhythms to your advantage. Collect firewood during the warmest part of the day, set traps in the late afternoon, and focus on shelter before nightfall. And don't underestimate rest. A short nap during the heat of the day can make you more productive and alert when the temperature drops. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked bushcraft skills, signal preparation. Even the most experienced outdoorsmen can face unexpected situations. And if you ever need help, being able to signal rescuers could save your life. Carry a small signal mirror or even use the reflective surface of a phone screen. 3 short flashes are the universal distress signal. You can also create signal fires by burning green vegetation to produce thick white smoke. Always build signal fires in an open area where they'll be visible from above. In wet conditions, keeping gear dry becomes a priority. A simple but often forgotten trick is to use natural oils and wax. Rubbing beeswax or pine resin on leather boots or knife sheaths waterproofs them. Even smearing animal fat over wooden handles can protect them from moisture and rot. The same principle applies to clothing. If you're expecting rain, line your backpack with a garbage bag before you pack. It's lightweight, takes up no space, and can keep critical gear bone dry even in heavy downpours. Let's also talk about safety, because when you're alone, even a small injury can become a big problem. Always keep a small first aid kit, but go beyond the basics. Learn how to use natural remedies too. Plantain leaves, for example, are excellent for soothing cuts and insect bites. Pine resin has mild antiseptic properties and can be used to seal small wounds. And clean moss or sphagnum can serve as an emergency bandage if you run out of supplies. One of the best solo bushcraft hacks is learning to read the forest. Pay attention to animal tracks. They can lead you to water sources or warn you of larger predators. Listen for bird calls. Sudden silence can signal a nearby threat. Even the direction of the wind carries information. A warm breeze might mean a weather change, while a sudden drop in temperature can hint at rain or snow. The more you observe, the less you're surprised. Cooking in the wild is another essential skill. A simple tripod made from 3 sticks and a bit of cord lets you suspend pots over a fire. Flat stones placed near the flames can serve as a makeshift grill. And if you don't have a pot, carve a bowl from green wood and use hot rocks to boil water inside it. These techniques require patience, but they allow you to prepare food safely without heavy gear. If you're planning a longer solo stay, building a few permanent camp features can save you huge amounts of time and energy. A raised bed made from logs and branches keeps you off the cold ground, insulating your body and protecting you from moisture. A simple camp table or workbench makes processing wood and preparing food much easier. Even something as simple as a tool rack to organize knives and cordage can make your camp feel like a small, efficient home rather than a temporary shelter.